Okay, Prabhu, I will. Jaya Radha Madhava Manjabira Hare Radha Madhava Manjabira Jaya Radha Madhava Manjabira Hare Radha Madhava Manjabira Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhare Vijanavalabha Girivaradhare Yashodanandana Brajajanranjana Yashodanandana Brajajan Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamun Iravanachare Yamunatiravanachare 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 Jaya Radha Madhava Javiare Radha Madhava Kunjaviare Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhara Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhara Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Yamunadira Vanachare Yamunadira Vanachare Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to this morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. So today we'll be speaking from the 5th canto, The Creative Impetus, chapter 20, Lord Rishabdev's teachings to his sons, text 20. So that is canto 5, 5:20. Tasmat pavanto hridayena jataha Tasmat pavanto hridayena jata Sarve mahiyang sang amum sanabham Aklishta buddhya paratam pajadvam Shushrushyanam tat bharanam prajanam. Tasmad bhavanto hridayena jata sarve mayiyang sam amum sanabam. Klishta buddhya bharatang bhajadvam Shushrushyanam tat bharanam prajanam. Would anyone online like to try to read the verse? Tasmat, therefore, because I am the Supreme, Bhavantaha, you, Hridayena, from my heart, Gataha, born, Sarve, O Mayang, some best, Amum, that, Sanabam, other, Aklishta Buddhya, with your intelligence, without material contamination. Bharatam, Bharata, Bhajadvam, just try to serve. Susrushanam, Shushrushanam, service. That. Bharanam, Braja, Bharanam, Brajanam, ruling over the citizens. Translation. My dear boys, you are all born of my heart, which is the seat of all spiritual qualities. Therefore, you should not be like materialistic and envious men. You should accept your eldest brother, Bharata, who is exalted in devotional service. If you engage yourselves in Bharata's service, your service to him will include my service. You will rule the citizens automatically. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In this verse, the word Hridaya indicates the heart, which is also called Uraha, the chest. Heart is situated within the chest, and although instrumentally the son is born with the aid of the genitals, he is actually born from within the heart. According to the heart situation, semen takes the form of a body. Therefore, according to the Vedic system, when one begets a child, his heart should be purified through the ritualistic ceremony known as Bhavadana. Rishabhadev's heart was always uncontaminated and spiritual. Consequently, all the sons born from the heart of Rishabhadev were spiritually inclined. Nonetheless, Rishabhadev suggested that his eldest son was superior, and he advised the others to serve him. All the brothers of Bharata Maharaj were advised by Rishabhadev to adhere to Bharata's service. The question may be asked, why one should be attached to family members? For in the beginning, it was advised that one should not be attached to home and family. However, it is also advised, Mahiya Sam Padarajo Visheka. One has to serve the Mahiya, one who is very spiritually advanced. Hatsevam Dharamahur Muktehe. By serving the Mahat, the exalted devotee, one's path for liberation is open. The family of Rishabhadev should not be compared to an ordinary materialistic family. Bharata Maharaj, Rishabhadev's eldest son, was specifically very exalted. For this reason, the other sons were advised to serve him for his pleasure. That was to be their duty. Supreme Lord was advising Bharata Maharaj to be the chief ruler of the planet. This is the real plan of the Supreme Lord. In the Battle of Kurukshetra, we find that Lord Krishna wanted Maharaj Yudhishthira to be the supreme emperor of this planet. He never wanted Duryodhana to take the post. As stated in the previous verse, Lord Rishabhadev's heart is Hridayam Yatra Dharmaha. The characteristic dharma is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. Surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To protect dharma, Pritranaya Sadhunam, the Lord always wants the rule of the earth to be a devotee, and everything goes on nicely for the benefit of everyone. As soon as a demon rules the earth, everything becomes chaotic. At the present moment, the world is inclined toward the democratic process. The people in general are all contaminated by the modes of passion and ignorance. Consequently, they cannot select the right person to head the government. The president is selected by the votes of ignorant Shudras. Therefore, another Sudra is elected, and immediately the entire government becomes polluted. If people strictly follow the principles of Bhagavad Gita, they would elect the person who is the Lord's devotee. Then automatically there would be good government. Rishabhadev therefore recommended Bharat Maharaj as the emperor of this planet. Serving a devotee means serving the Supreme Lord, for a devotee always represents the Lord. When a devotee is in charge, the government is always congenial and beneficial for everyone. The text again. Tasmad bhavanto hridayena jata sarve mahiyang sam mum sanabam atlisti buddhya bharatam bhajatam susrushanam tad bharanam brajanam. My dear boys, you're all born of my heart, which is the seat of all spiritual qualities. Therefore, you should not be like materialistic and envious men. You should accept your eldest brother, Bharata, who is exalted in devotional service. If you engage yourselves in Bharata's service, your service to him will include my service, and you'll rule the citizens automatically. O Magyana Timrandasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshu Unmiltagina Tasmai Shri Guru Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishtavitade Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Nami. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Srinagari Pashtadya Deshatara. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Lord Rishabhadev is giving the secret to automated expansion of influence in leadership. So here, Lord Rishabhadev is explaining to his sons that for a leader to actually be influential over his society, over his constituency, and not just be influential in a any sort of self-centered way or any random way, but a way that is actually beneficial to his or her constituency. The way to do that is to actually take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As we know, there are 10 subject matters of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and one of the most important subject matters, of course, all 10 are important. One of the essential ones is this ashraya, how to actually take shelter of the Supreme Lord. So the Lord's system is that he establishes the eldest to lead. So the unit of the unit in a progressive human society is a family unit, and the eldest is taken to actually be the natural leader of the other children. And but here the Lord actually qualifies it, so it's both. So it's actually easier if it's the eldest, and if the eldest has a quality of having taken shelter of the Lord, um, then the others who follow, uh, then it's actually a lot easier for them to also take shelter because the Lord says here, if you engage yourselves in Bharata service, your service to him will include my service. So my Guru Maharaj, known as Devanitya Maharaj, he explains, he has coined a phrase, nested hierarchy of consciousness. So you can, visualize this just like, I don't know if any of you have seen one of these Russian doll sets. I think they called babushka Russian doll sets. So there's a doll within a doll. So you have the outer casing, then when you open the big one, the outer one, then there's a small one, and small one, small one, and so forth. So in the same way, beginning with Lord Brahma, he has the most he has the most expansive consciousness in the universe. So he's the eldest. So yeah, so the Lord through his Garbhadan Garbhavasha, the Lord who's sitting at the base of each universe. Lord Brahma is actually born from his navel. Okay. And then from Lord Brahma, he's actually the first living entity. And the Lord personally instructs him from within the heart how to actually take shelter of him. So as Lord Brahma describes in his autobiography in the second canto, to his son Narada Muni, that he was going down up and down the stem from which he was born, from the lotus flower from which he came out of. He was going down, searching for the end. And so he couldn't find it. And so what happened was he began to feel drops on his head. Up, 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 up. And so that denoted tapa, austerity. And so through 100 celestial years of performing austerities, he achieved the darshan of the Lord. And the vivid description is that the Lord actually shook his hand and congratulated him on performing such wonderful austerities to realize them. So the Lord instructed him how to take shelter, and then the Lord rewarded him with his personal darshan. And so after being awarded his personal darshan, then Brahma was actually firmly established in ashraya of the Lord. And so the entire duration of his life, he knew actually what he had to do. So in the beginning, he was a bit bewildered how he's going to carry out uh, this this great task of repopulating the universe. The Lord told him that what you are asking for has already been given. It's not a new thing. This is something that goes on millennium after millennium. And so, still, after he actually got the darshan of the Lord, then he was confident that he could actually carry it out. And so, the whole Bhagavatam, you can see different demigods coming from different parts of the Lord, uh, Brahma's body, sub demigods, and humans as well, beginning with Swayambhuva Manu. So this is the natural system that the Lord has actually established. So there has to be quality, and if so, it's a lot easier if it's the eldest, because then in this way, in one sense, it's actually automated, because it's very natural to follow the elders' example. Uh, So this universe is ruled by time, the Kala Shakti of the Lord. And so sequence is actually influential. So if one is born into a family, um, the way in which the Lord has to, the way in which the system works is that there are spirit souls who want to enjoy matter, so they have to forget. And so, but the Lord has to also build in opportunities for them to become self-realized. So you have two contradictory objectives of the material creation. And so the way the Lord does it is that He makes them, He establishes a cycle of birth and death to the secondary creation. So there's a sarga, primary creation, the universe, the modes of nature, and then Lord Brahma takes charge of the secondary creation. And so within this, there's a cycle of birth and death uh, through different species of life. And and so that sequence, that whole wheel of samsara, is that there's an actual sequence. So in each life, you come in and you've forgotten about your previous lifetime. So this is necessary. Otherwise, if you don't forget, then it's practically impossible to enjoy uh, all your past experiences, lower species, from being eaten, uh, just being in a constant state of fear. You might have had a human body, and there might have been war in that society, and you might have been abused in different ways, physically, sexually, emotionally. So you cannot actually enjoy in your next life if you don't forget. So that forgetfulness necessitates that uh, you, the example that you follow is your eldest, because elder and younger follows, it's the characteristic feature of sequence from beginning to end. So that's just a physical characteristic of why this leadership system has to be that way. But the Lord qualifies it and says that Bharat is also established in devotional service. He's well practiced. So it does happen that the eldest is a rascal and is no good, and so they have to be removed, or they have to be neglected and not followed. Um, but when that combination is there, that the elders in society are established in devotional service, particularly that they've taken full shelter of the Supreme Lord, then it makes for um, a platform for how to actually give a good example to the whole society. And in this way, society actually uh, is in, is guided nicely, yeah, in an expansive way. So here the Lord, Prabhupada, he writes here that um, serving a devotee means serving the Supreme Lord. For a devotee always represents the Lord. When a devotee is in charge, the government is always congenial and beneficial for everyone. So the devotee representing the Lord is the same as Lord Brahma representing his father, Garbhodakshay Vishnu. Um, Kshirodakshay Vishnu. Garbhodakshay Vishnu. So his father is Garbhodakshay Vishnu. Uh, and and just as, when I think it was the earth who took the form of the cow, Surabhi, she approached Lord Brahma that the earth has become very heavy uh, because of the military arrangements of different demoniac leaders, and they are not performing yagya. And so as a result, um, yes, the earth has actually become burdensome uh, with all this military arrangements. And these military arrangements are manifest when they actually increase their military power. It's out of envy for another nation. Uh, and so Surabhi, feeling the burden of this, went to Lord Brahma. His Holiness Hridayananda Maharaj explains nicely that this burden that the earth felt, it was due to an insurgency from the demons, from the battle at the Milk Ocean. So, as you may know, after the churning of the Milk Ocean, a great battle between the demons and the demigods broke out because they felt that they were cheated from the pot of nectar. That they didn't blame it of Mohini Murti, but they blamed the demigods. Um, and so, as a result of that, that envy, a great battle broke out. And so they were nearly annihilated. In fact, a complete genocide was nearly executed by the demigods to rid demons completely of the entire universe. But Lord Brahma intervened. And so, as a result of that intervention, um, they took shelter. They regrouped um, by taking shelter of the earth. So, Rananda Maharaj explains that basically, just like in Star Wars, you have the dark side trying to turn a planet into a Death Star and then use that as a platform for uh, basically attacking the Jedi's, etc. So in the same way, basically that is what's happening. Of course, this is an older story from the Bhagavatam, so one could make the argument that this is the actual original story, and what you see in different cinematic universes is based on this kind of idea of an of re- yeah insurgencies by demons, etc. So anyway, so Surabhi approaches Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma goes to the edge of the Milk Ocean, and he sits down in meditation and he listens in. So when he's listening in, what is the actual? So the Lord is lying in the Milk Ocean, but he doesn't actually, use his carrier uh, to approach the Lord. But the system is that um, he just sits at the edge and he tunes in. So from within the heart, the Lord actually instructs him. So in the same way, similarly as well, when Krishna appeared on this earth planet, the description is that he first of all appeared from within the um, the heart of Vasudev, and then he went to the mind of Vasudev. And Prabhupada gives a nice example that just as the sun rays are transferred to the moon from sunset to moonrise, similarly, the Lord was reflected from the mind of Vasudev to the mind of Devaki and then descended into her womb. So basically, devotee has this power actually. So although, yes, everybody has an expansion of Surutakshai Vishnu, expanded as a Paramatma feature, the super soul. But a devotee specifically, by dint of the uninterrupted service to uh, to the Lord of the Milk Ocean, who is the Lord of Brahma, they too can also tune in and hear what the Lord has to say, what is to be done, what is not to be done, what will actually give them pleasure. And so when a society is actually peaceful, following the example um, of a devotee who can very clearly hear and hear the instructions of the Lord, hear his pleasing speech, see his form from within the heart and also from without in the deities. Uh, Seeing the Lord's actions in all of society may be a different wave that's like gripping society. And so the devotee can actually see during wartime, during peaceful times, uh, during times of great sense gratification, the devotee can actually see what is going on. And so when when the citizens actually follow the example of such a devotee, then actually everybody becomes happy. Um, why? Because everybody is part and parcel of the Lord. So that happiness that people experience from good leadership, capable leadership, this is a an ontological consequence of the leader being tuned in with their original master. So this is the way to actually establish happiness. So people may be, just like for example, um, if there's a Harinam party, and people see the devotees and they start smiling, or you try to get them to chant and they just burst out laughing or they smile. They may not understand why they're actually feeling this way, but the reason is that they are actually being connected, directly connected with the Lord within their own hearts. And so they are experiencing the pleasure from that union, uh, even though they might not have the vocabulary, the philosophy, the visualization of what is actually happening within the heart. But still, uh, it's, uh, it's, it's experienced. Prabhupada explains this nicely when there's a if yeah, it was he was touring the estate of John Lennon when he was in England, Tittenhurst, and there he was singing a bhajan, think of Narottam Das Thakur. And as we know, the bhajans of Narottam Das Thakur have great feeling. So if you sing it with, the standard melody, just naturally, that emotion comes out. And then you couple it with Prabhupada's devotion, it was a very moving, powerful sound vibration that he was producing. So even though Mother Yamuna didn't know what Prabhupada was singing, uh, but she was moved. And, Prabhupada turned to her and he asked her, so do you like it? And she said yes. And he went on to describe that the sound vibration is just like, quote, a thunderburst. So when everybody hears thunder, not only do the peacocks here at Nagari, Vrindavan, do they start screaming, uh, but everybody feels it. Children, the elders, animals, everybody just feels it, the thunder. So similarly, the sound vibration is like that. It actually works in that way. That emotion, it just draws it out from the soul proper. So that's why Lord Rishabhadev is saying that a natural system of leadership, if we were to draw out the natural qualities out of all the citizens, Sachit Ananda, persons being blissful, persons having knowledge and experiencing full cognizance, and actually being peaceful. So when you're peaceful, you're established in your quality of eternality. You have no fear, because yes, while the body, uh, time will take it away, but somebody who is established in devotional service or has full cognizance, even though their body might be riddled with disease, might be riddled with just deterioration due to old age, and they are peaceful because they are cognizant of their sat feature, their feature that, yeah, we're just transitioning to a new body. The pain is there, but I'm happy trying to do devotional service in, this current capacity. So to actually draw that out very naturally, you need the thunder of a devotee. So yes, a devotee like Yudhishthir Maharaj, Bharat, uh, any administrator in society, they naturally draw that out because they're connected with the Lord of the heart at every step. Yes. So here, all the brothers of Bharat Maharaj were advised by Rishabdev to adhere to Bharat's service. So then Prabhupada says a question may be asked why one should be attached to family members. However, it is also advised one has to serve the Mahiyan. Mm. So if our elders, just like in our society, Society for Krishna Consciousness, um, it flows very nicely if our elders, Prabhupada disciples, those who came before us, they are also Mahiyan. They are practiced in devotional service. But, if you have a local elder who is older but isn't so established in their practice, then um, then there's other, uh, the second in command, but there's elders who are practiced in that way. So the point that is being made here is that yes, if we were to have a progressive society where all material duties are taken care of nicely, so this Varnashram system where the occupational duties are to be done nicely, then this combination of the elders and them being established in devotional service, um, it makes for a very nice system. Um, we can see in modern day society, the elders aren't so knowledgeable. Uh, old people, they didn't get a good education. The education was devoid of God consciousness, and so they're unable to actually lead the children. And so the children become neglectful. Uh, so this is the result of a bad education or an education that's just missing big pieces. And the big piece here is ashraya, how to actually take shelter of the Lord. And so what ends up happening is the elders get neglected. And and then when the elders get neglected, then yes, then other living entities who are dependent on the working class also get neglected. So the children get neglected. Um, and then there's just so much of disenfranchisement. So those who are naturally this disparity between power of different persons, it becomes the norm in society. Whereas if you have persons who are non-envious, who actually follow an example of leaders who've taken shelter of the Supreme Lord, then those who are disenfranchised, doesn't matter whether they be animals, whether they come from a specific community, specific ethnic group, depending on where you are in the world, who's the host population, who's predominant, who's dependent. Um, so each part of the world has its different um, composition of who's disenfranchised. Those leaders take care of everybody because they understand that these living entities are part and parcel of the Lord. And so the Lord, being the original father, it'll give him great pain to see them being neglected. Hare Krishna. Are there any reflections, contributions?
Hare Krishna.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Well, before you contribute, uh, I wanted to read something. So today is also the disappearance of Sri Ramananda Rai. So Ramananda Rai was one of the most intimate associates of Lord Mahaprabhu. Ramananda Rai was Arjuna in his past incarnation. This is stated in Gur Ragana Ragana Guragano Deshad Deepika. 120 to 124. Before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Ramananda Rai, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told the Lord that no other devotee's knowledge of Radha Krishna's Madhurya Rasa compares with Ramananda Rai's. Although Lord Chaitanya was half the age, 40. Although Lord Chaitanya was half the age of 40-year-old Ramananda when they met, so Ramananda was 40, Lord Chaitanya was 20. Lord said, "My dear Ramananda, both you and I are madmen, and therefore we meet intimately on an equal level." Outwardly, he acted as the governor of Madras, but he was a poet, Sanskrit scholar, dramatist, well versed in Rasa literature, music, singing, dancing. During their 10-day meeting in Vidyanagara, Lord Gauranga and Ramananda Rai discussed all points of Krishna consciousness. Empowered by the Lord, Ramananda answered all questions posed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gaudiya Vaishnavacharyas have given lengthy discourses on talks between the Lord and Ramananda Rai, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya, Chapter 8. These talks are called Ramananda Sambhag. So yes, on this day of the auspicious disappearance of Sri Ramananda Rai, we can all pray to him so that we can have the darshan of Lord Chaitanya. And in this way, whatever influence we have on different living entities, because everybody is a leader, they have influence on some living entities. In this way, we can be very clear what is to be done, what is not to be done, for their benefit and for your benefit too. Hare Krishna. Sorry, Tarka Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah, Sri Ramananda Roy, wonderful personality. It was to Sri Ramananda Roy that Lord Chaitanya revealed his Puja form, right? 6 arms. Lord Chaitanya, Sri Krishna, and Lord Ramachandra all combined in one. That right? And so Ramananda Roy directly perceived that Lord Chaitanya was Krishna himself. He was glorified by Lord Chaitanya as being the only individual who could remain undisturbed by the form of a woman, actually able to even touch young girls in the course of preparing them for dramatic performances and remain undisturbed. So this verse, all these verses, wonderful verses, Srimad Bhagavatam, sometimes devotees ask me, what is your favorite book? And there's so many wonderful books. And everyone is wonderful, but of all of them, say, if I had to choose one, Srimad Bhagavatam, it's Krishna himself. It must be wonderful. In this verse, Abdev is directing his sons to engage in the service of the elder son, Bharata, which illustrates an important principle in Vaishnavism that we can engage in service both directly and indirectly, but indirect service is also direct service. So we serve Krishna by serving Krishna's pure devotee, the spiritual master. And sometimes the spiritual master also engages, he requests or instructs that we render service to another, and that becomes service to him. And so not only the hierarchy of service from Guru, the Parampara to Krishna, but sometimes also others on the order of the spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada did this routinely, that his disciples work cooperatively and under the direction of the temple president. The first thing that should be understood unequivocally is that there is no middleman ever. There is no middleman between you and your spiritual master. Your relationship with your spiritual master is always direct. You have a direct relationship with your spiritual master. There is no link between you and your spiritual master. You have a direct relationship with your spiritual master. That's always the case. If anyone ever attempts to place themselves between you and your spiritual master, you might be dealing with a cheater, because your relationship is direct. However, sometimes the spiritual master gives specific instruction that you can serve me by working under the direction of this particular devotee. So in this case, it becomes authorized. Then if you neglect that, then you're in Maya, then you're lost. So Srila Prabhupada instructed us to work under the direction of the temple president. Temple presidents were established sometimes by Srila Prabhupada, sometimes by his disciples, and it was a very important post. Srila Prabhupada established that system of management in such a way that temple presidents cannot be easily removed from their post. He didn't like that we would often change things, in the course of ordinary dealings. Sometimes devotees become dissatisfied with a particular leader and they want to make a change. Srila Prabhupada objected to that tendency to keep changing. He insisted that we work with our temple president, and he actually set up a system of management. It's written into his will, such that you can't just remove a temple president if you don't like him. You have to find the ways and means to work with him amicably. And in any case, there must be cooperation. Things must go on smoothly. It sometimes happened that a temple president would go off the rails. Sometimes a temple president would be in Maya and not following Srila Prabhupada's instructions. There were a few notable instances in Srila Prabhupada's time that his disciples will be familiar with. I experienced one of them directly. My temple president in New York fell into Maya and terrible things happened. And devotees approached Srila Prabhupada about this, and eventually the situation was rectified. The temple president was, he didn't have to be removed. He left of his own volition once he was exposed. But Srila Prabhupada expressed his appreciation for the devotees who remained cooperative in what was a very difficult situation, because there were abuses of devotees going on, all kinds of terrible things were happening. But the devotees remained cooperative in spite of it all. And that was very much appreciated by Srila Prabhupada. He explained that there was no loss for those devotees. They were rendering service under the direction of a leader who was in Maya, but nonetheless, because they remained cooperative and they were doing this under Srila Prabhupada's direction, therefore, there was no loss, and their service was still of value. They still made advancement by that service, even though sometimes they were being engaged in nonsensical activity by a fallen leader. It's an important point to understand that it's sometimes misunderstood. And I'd like to read something. It's a transcript, an excerpt from a transcript of a room conversation with Srila Prabhupada that took place at the time that we were having this problem in New York with a leader who had fallen into Maya. So one devotee in particular, Hari Kesh, who was very intelligent, perceived early on that this particular leader was not following properly. Not everyone understood, because there was a lot of propaganda being disseminated by that leader, and devotees were encouraged to understand that he was somehow some kind of a special personality and actually a link between us and Srila Prabhupada, and that even when his activities appeared to be nonsensical, it was actually transcendental Leela. Devotees were being tricked in all kinds of ways, and some of the devotees were naive. So the topic of fallen leaders came up in a conversation. Guru Das said to Srila Prabhupada, if there is a devotees who are not yet purified, if the devotee is not yet purified, why is the temple president a representative of you? If we are not at the purified stage, then why is the temple president a representative of yourself? Srila Prabhupada said, to carry his order, that is purification. If you create your own atmosphere, then you become impure. If you simply carry out the order of your spiritual master, then they will be purified. If you do your own business, that is not good. You cannot do anything which is not ordered by your spiritual master. Of course, everyone should have sense. It is not that we are dull stone. Unless it is moved, it cannot. But if you have got moving power, but the basic issue should be to carry out the order of his spiritual master. That is your president. Otherwise, you are not. Hari Kesh says, sometimes we have experience of someone in authority who is obviously not following your instructions. And Srila Prabhupada then became very stern and sharply said, that you have not to judge. Hari Kesh says, Srila Prabhupada said, you are not to judge. You should know that this man is appointed as a representative of my spiritual master. I must follow. You cannot judge him. Then said, that is not your business to judge. Hari Kesh says, then We simply wait for further instructions from you and keep. And Srila Prabhupada interrupted him and said, no further instructions. He said, as long as he is president, you must follow him. If he is wrong, that will be corrected by the spiritual master. You cannot correct him. Otherwise, obedience is the first discipline. If you do not obey the representative authority, then there cannot be any discipline. Then everything will be topsy-turvy. Harike says, you would rather have us follow the temple president. And Srila Prabhupada says, yes. If he is wrong, he will come out. So the steps will be taken by the spiritual master. You cannot, do not try to rectify. Harike says, our advancement is the same. Srila Prabhupada says, yes. And there's more to the conversation. We're at a time, but that conversation typifies the instructions that I heard from Srila Prabhupada when in his presence regarding how we should accept authority. This is it's a concept that's pretty widely misunderstood, but maybe we can discuss this at greater length in the future. But sometimes there are individuals who try to inject themselves into the guru-disciple relationship as though they are a link between the disciple and the guru. But if it's not specifically instructed or authorized by the spiritual master, then it should not be taken that way. Jai Shri Shri Radha Damodar. The devotees have to be careful. Don't allow yourself to be taken in. You should understand clearly what is to be done and what is not to be done. Things must be authorized. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Shri Radha Damodar.